Trial resumed. Jury not present.
The court said, "Good morning."
All counsel said, "Good morning, Your Honor."
The court said, "Please make your appearances."
Mr. Ferguson said, Micah Ferguson, Ryan Finkel, Juliana Murray for the United States, and were joined by a paralegal. Isabel Loftus, Your Honor.
Mr. Kamraju said, "Good morning, Your Honor." Siddhartha Kamraju, Sabrina Schroff, and Scott Skirek for Mr. Gua. And we're joined at counsel's table by Jorge Salazar, and Mr. Gua is with us as well.
The court said, "Please be seated." By letter dated June 30, 2024, the government moves to preclude the defense from introducing 5 categories of evidence. On July 1, 2024, Gua filed a letter in opposition, ECF number 386, and the government filed a reply, ECF number 387. First, the government argues that testimony of non-victim investors is irrelevant and, therefore, inadmissible under Federal Rules of Evidence 402 and 403. Specifically, the government seeks to preclude the fact that some investors do not believe they were defrauded. Gua contends that defense witnesses should be allowed to testify that they heard the alleged misrepresentations upon which the government relies, but did not view them as important in their investment decisions, because such testimony is evidence that the jury should consider in assessing the materiality of the alleged misrepresentations. Gua letter at 2. In determining whether a scheme to defraud existed, the jury is tasked with the defendant's intent. United States v. Thomas, 377 F.3d 232, 243, 2dr 2004. Whether an investor feels actually victimized is irrelevant. See United States v. Washington, 21 Cr. 603 2023 WL 621-9203, at *9 SDNY September 22, 2023. Moreover, the government need not prove that the scheme successfully defrauded the intended victim. United States v. Dynome, 86 F.3d 277, 283, 2dr 1996. That said, under the Second Circuit's decision in United States v. Litvak, 889 F.3d 56, 65, 2dr 2018, the defense may elicit testimony that bears on whether Gua's alleged misrepresentations were material to the reasonable investor. Indeed, in its reply filed July 1, 2024, the government concedes that the defense can call witnesses to testify that they did not believe certain statements made by Gua were material. For example, those witnesses might testify that Gua's statements regarding guaranteeing losses were not important to their decision to invest. Governor reply at 2. I will permit the defense to ask its non-victim witnesses about what information they personally considered in deciding to invest, what weight they gave to various statements and why. The defense may not imply, however, that the government's victim witnesses were comparatively negligent or gullible. See Thomas, 377 F.3d at 242-43. For example, the defense cannot ask its witnesses for their opinions of other victims, or to opine about what statements other victims should have considered or disregarded. In short, the defense shall limit its questioning to each witness's own investing experience. Next, the government objects to defense witness 1's anticipated testimony about a variety of matters, including his targeting by the CCP. Governor letter at 4. The government first takes issue with the timeliness of when exhibits related to defense witness 1 were provided by the defense. ID at 6-7. The defense states that, consistent with Rule 16, they provided the exhibits for defense witness 1 once they decided to use the exhibits as part of Gua's case in chief. Gua letter at 3. As I've stated, I expect the parties to be nimble. I credit the defense's representation as officers of the court as to the timeliness of their disclosure, and I will not preclude the exhibits on that basis. On the substance of the government's letter, in my May 2, 2024 order, I held that Gua may offer evidence that his fears of CCP targeting were objectively legitimate. Order at 14. ECF number 319. Accordingly, defense witness 1 may testify about being arrested and interrogated by the Chinese police and being coerced by the CCP into filing complaints against Guo, which adds objective credence to Guo's beliefs. Guo letter at 2. I disagree with the government that the timing of defense witness 1's arrest renders it irrelevant. Governor letter at 5. Although defense witness 1 was arrested in October 2022, over 2 years after the GTV private placement in which he participated, the arrest occurred within the time frame of the alleged conspiracy and may support non-culpable explanations for Guo's conduct. ECF number 243 at 6. Although defense witness 1 may testify as to his own interactions with the CCP, and the CCP forcing him to file false complaints against Guo, I will not allow testimony that is based on pure speculation. For example, defense witness 1 cannot testify as to the intent or motivations of the government's victim witnesses. Nor can he speculate that victim witnesses are biased in favor of the CCP or are CCP spies. Moreover, defense witness 1 cannot testify that Chinese authorities wanted to use a fraud case to bring down Guo, a speculative claim, to the extent that this testimony has any probative value, such as for its effect on defense witness 1's state of mind. It is substantially outweighed by the risk of prejudice. It risks creating an inference that the prosecution team is improperly linked to the CCP or in any way malicious, which I have previously forbid Guo from arguing. Order at 13. Lastly, the government argues that defense witness 1 should not be allowed to testify that his profits were frozen by the governor letter at 6. I agree that this would contravene my order that prohibited Guo from arguing that the SEC or the government are responsible for the victim's financial losses. Order at 18. However, Guo states that he will not elicit testimony implying that the SEC is responsible for any alleged losses. Guo letter at 3. Therefore, this portion of the government's request is denied as moot. Third, the government seeks to preclude defense witness George Higginbotham from offering hearsay testimony about a conspiracy Higginbotham joined to seek to persuade the Trump administration to repatriate Guo to China. Governor letter at 9. The government is correct that the admission of co-conspirator statements is only allowed under Rule 801d. 2. When such statements are made by the co-conspirator of an opposing party, and Higginbotham does not fall into that category. But Guo is correct that there may be permissible non-hearsay purposes for admission of Higginbotham and his co-conspirators out-of-court statements, but I cannot evaluate this in the abstract, and I will address objections as they arise during Higginbotham's testimony. Accordingly, the government's motion is denied without prejudice. As to the fourth issue, the testimony of expert Maggie Sklar, the government's motion is denied as moot, because the defense does not intend to elicit such testimony. Fifth, the government seeks to preclude summary witness Thomas Bishop from testifying about redemptions provided by the Himalaya Exchange. The government argues that because the redemptions are not a defense to the charges, they are irrelevant. Government letter at 10. I disagree. Although the fact that the Himalaya Exchange permitted its customers to redeem $, for currency is not a defense to fraud, testimony about how the Himalaya Exchange did business is relevant to complete the narrative of how the exchange operated and how funds flowed through the exchange. Accordingly, the government's motion is denied. Are there any further applications?
Mr. Ferguson said, "Just may we have one moment, Your Honor."
The court said yes.
Mr. Ferguson said, "Thank you, Your Honor." One other application that we had raised previously related to the statement the defense was objecting to on 403. Separate from the letters last night, where Mr. Guo says, "The United States will never falsely accuse you." In sum and substance, listen to what I say. The United States will never falsely accuse you. I had mentioned this, I believe, last week. And defense counsel who I've been speaking with about it was not present, so we tabled it. But given we're going to rest this morning, Your Honor, I wanted to resolve it so we could put in the appropriate version of the summary chart with that redacted or without that redacted. And the government's position is, there's clearly high probative value to such a statement. It's a statement of an opposing party. It's Mr. Guo's recorded statement. And it's not unfairly prejudicial. There's nothing unfairly prejudicial about it. Routinely criminal defendants confess to crimes. And if they go to trial, confessions are admitted at their trial. There's number 403 problem with such statements.
Mr. Kamaraju said, yes, thank you. I think Mr. Ferguson's use of the confession analogy actually shows the problem with this testimony. When confessions are admitted in court, they are admitted for relevant facts. So, for example, if a defendant confessed, I shot somebody, then that has relevance to the particular crime charged. The statement that they're eliciting here is a blanket statement about the U.S. government moves slow. They will never falsely accuse you. There's no particular fact in this case that goes to other than the ultimate question the jury has to decide. Which is, has the United States government incorrectly charged Mr. Gua here? So unlike a confession, that basic connective tissue between a fact that is in dispute, a specific fact that is in dispute, and the confession doesn't exist here. And so it has no probative value of those facts. All it is Mr. Gua's opinion at the time of this statement as to the U.S. government's veracity. Or whatever the right word is. It's not a statement with respect to the particular charges here. It's not a statement or an admission with respect to any fact that the government has tried to allege. And so on that basis it has very little relevance, but it does have a significant amount of unfair prejudice, which outweighs whatever relevance the government may be able to argue, because essentially it places before the jury a weighted opinion that the government I think obviously will try to argue is Mr. Gua's confession that their entire case is correct. And I don't think that's the question that the jury has to consider. The jury has to consider the evidence of the specific allegations that the government has made to determine whether the government has met its burden with respect to that. So on that ground, relevance and 403, we would object to inclusion of this.
Mr. Ferguson said, whatever context they want to argue this statement should be viewed as, they can argue it. But it doesn't mean it's not admissible, Your Honor. It is not substantially outweighed by a risk of unfair prejudice. And just to be clear, the defense is putting on an entire defense case centered on the fact that Mr. Gua's belief that, in part, the DOJ was targeting him as an arm of the CCP was objectively reasonable. They have 9 witnesses that are going to put on this defense case. That's the gravamen of the defense case. This rebuts that. And it's Mr. Gua's own statement. He recorded it, he put it on the internet himself. He voluntarily did all that. There's nothing unfair about the jury hearing what Mr. Gua said during the time period of the fraud when discussing investigations by the SEC and U.S. authorities. This isn't some unrelated context. He's talking about this case and says, the United States will never falsely accuse you. In fact, he's talking about supporters of his, investors, who had complained to the U.S. authorities and suggesting to his followers that they were going to be criminally charged by the United States because those complaints were false. It's clearly relevant. It's clearly admissible. It's a statement of the defendant himself that is against his penal interests. There's no question it's admissible. Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Kamaraju said, just briefly, Your Honor. 1. As the court has made clear, and as the defense has made clear, we have no argument. No part of our defense case is to argue that the prosecutors at this table or that this prosecution is being motivated or constructed or directed by the CCP. So the point that Mr. Ferguson was making may be responsive if our defense was that this particular prosecution was being driven by the CCP. That's not our point. And frankly, Your Honor, they're the ones who brought up in the first instance the DOJ's infiltration by the CCP through their protest signs. We didn't introduce that at all in the beginning. So the concept that this statement rebuts a defense argument that the defense is not trying to make doesn't make it relevant. 2. They're right, we're allowed to argue the context. But the statement itself still has to have independent relevance to be admissible. And this statement does not make any particular fact more or less likely, other than the ultimate decision that the jury has to make with respect to guilt. So for all those reasons, we maintain our objection.
The court said, I'm going to permit the government to introduce the statement. Is there anything further?
Mr. Ferguson said, "Not for the government, Your Honor."
Mr. Kamarju said, "I just had an administrative question for Your Honor. So it sounds like the government anticipates resting this morning. As a formal matter, we would obviously make our Rule 29 motion subsequent to that. I presume the government will oppose. I don't know if it's Your Honor's practice to reserve or to hear argument on it. If it were to reserve, I just thought for efficiency's sake, rather than excusing the jury entirely and having that motion practice, I could just make on the record a note at sidebar that we're formally moving and they can make their opposition. But it's whatever Your Honor's preference is. I just wanted to know for planning purposes."
The court said, "I'm happy for you to make it at the sidebar."
Mr. Kamarju said, "Thank you, Your Honor. That's all I have."
Mr. Ferguson said, "No. Thank you, Your Honor."
The court said, "All righty. We'll start at 9:30.
Recess.
The court said, "Please be seated. I just received word that alternate number 4 is not present and is currently in Terrytown, and so that would mean that if he were to remain, we would be delayed by at least an hour. And so the question that I have for the parties is whether you would consent to my excusing him."
Mr. Kamarju said, "Your Honor, I think given the COVID situation and the length of the trial, we think it's important to have our bevy of alternates. I understand the delay, but just for the record, I think we would object."
Mr. Finkel said, "Your Honor, the government's view, and I think this is within your discretion, is that it makes sense to move forward. We're just a few days away. We have 3 other alternates. 3 or 4 other? 3 other alternates. The jury has been remarkably prompt. Timing is also an issue. Which is to say, if it takes too long to finish the trial, we're going to have problems with the rest of the jury. Understanding that the jury expects the trial to basically be done on July 12th. So saving an hour here for alternate juror 4 might hurt us with the rest of the jury. And so it's the government's view, of course, it's Your Honor's discretion. That carries the day as always, that we should move forward and just lose 1 additional alternate. We have plenty just in case."
The court said, "The defense agrees that it's a matter of my discretion, that the defense need not consent to my excusing alternate number 4.
Mr. Kamarju said, "Yes, it is ultimately Your Honor's discretion."
The court said, "All right, so I am going to excuse number 4 and we can get started."
Jury present.
The court said, "Good morning. Please be seated. Good morning and welcome back."
The juror said, "Good morning."
The court said, "We're going to continue with the direct examination of the witness. You may continue your inquiry."
Mr. Ferguson said, "Thank you, Your Honor."
Jessica Volhkol, resumed. Direct examination. By Mr. Ferguson.
"Good morning, Ms. Volhkol."
Good morning.
Mr. Ferguson said, "Your Honor, the government's going to offer, at the start, a few exhibits pursuant to stipulation. So exhibits listed in Stip 8. These are government exhibits 3100 to 3107. And then exhibits listed in Stip 13. These are government exhibit SW series, and it's 114, 129, and 133. The government also offers, to the extent they are not already in evidence, the government exhibits listed in Stip 21. And then finally, the government offers a new stipulation that's marked as Stip 23 concerning government exhibit C62 video clips. And further to that stipulation, the government offers government exhibits C62 V1 through V13, and government exhibit C62 TX.
Mr. Kamarju said, "Just on the last one, Your Honor, we just note our continuing objection."
The court said, "They are admitted."
Government's exhibits 3100 to 3107 received in evidence. Government's exhibits SW114, SW129, and SW133 received in evidence. Government's exhibits listed in Stip 21, received in evidence. Government's Exhibits STIP 23, C62V1 through V13, and C62 TX received in evidence.
Mr. Ferguson said, "Thank you, Your Honor." Ms. Loftus, if we could go to GXZ9, please. And we're going to go to page 34.
By Mr. Ferguson.
Ms. Volhkol, in the top left, do you see the date there is August 7th, 2020?
That's correct.
And focusing you in the center column, could you read the text under V1, please?
Timestamp, under V1.
Yeah, and beneath timestamp.
The communists want to play guerrilla games. Let's play and see who is better at this. Aren't you looking for that hairless bean, and James to smear us in the US? Aren't you trying to frame us with the SEC? And use the DA's office to smear us, as well as the DOJ?
And could you now read the text under V2, please?
As long as you have done something illegal, it is impossible for you to get away with it. It is just a matter of time. Do you know what it means to report a faked crime? In the United States, this is very illegal. Lying to the federal or U.S. government officials, 3 to 5 years, nothing else to say. They 100% will be after you if you report fake things. Then, I will tell my comrades. What do we have to do with G Club? There are probably 3 million and 5 million who intend to buy G Club now. Between 3 million and 5 million people.
Mr. Ferguson said, and we could go to the next page, Ms. Loftus. And I'll ask you to keep reading, Ms. Volhkol. I'll tell you when you can stop.
In the past, I said that if you buy G Club, you will have G Fashion stocks. Do you remember that I said that? 20%, 20%. So now, we have a problem, which is, if you talk about the stock, as long as this word shows up. That is why now Sarah and our comrades should not talk carelessly. There is not any. You should not talk about this stock word. Because GTV is already a legal U.S. company. Every share of which is protected by the U.S. government. That's the great thing about the United States as a country. Its regulatory agencies are the strictest, the most stringent one. Now me, Wawungue. If I took even a dime, let alone $1, from it, it will be the same stealing as taking 100 million. The protection of small investors in the United States is paramount. You know, right now we have 29 subpoenas. There are 29 investigation orders. We're asking the SEC to investigate, and we're asking the DA's office and the DOJ to investigate. You can investigate as long as you guys get our stuff clarified. But during the process, we really admire the United States government, who is very serious and very responsible. What is found now is that a son of a bitch, whose name I would not say, invested 500,000 and said he was cheated. This was a communist agent. Now they start to investigate his background. As well as Bean Dowdu and the $40,000 that she claimed that she sent to Sarah. Her background is also under investigation. And those who said they were cheated, and they are all under investigations for their backgrounds. The U.S. government moves slow, but it will never falsely accuse you. You must remember my words, it will never falsely accuse you, okay?
And Ms. Volhkol, if you can skip down now to the bottom paragraph, where it says timestamp, 107. And if you could read a few paragraphs starting there with, but comrades.
But comrades, you should remember me, Wawungue will give you 3 promises. The G Club membership cards that you purchase will have nothing to do with me legally. But I promise that I'll be responsible for the consequences of all the things sold by the G Club. I will work hard to make G Club the largest membership company in the world. The G Club will never go public. But the G Club holds 40% shares of G Fashion. Meaning that the world's G Clubs together constitute 40% shareholder. How much is G Fashion worth? From today, as well as from a month ago, $100 billion. G Fashion will not necessarily be a U.S. company. Don't forget that. It is not necessarily a US company. Just like G News. G News is now 100% independent and has nothing to do with me legally, nothing to do with me. We are doing this to hide from the Communist Party. We are fighting a guerrilla war, right?
Mr. Ferguson said, if we scroll down. And why don't you just read the first sentence under V4?
G Fashion is now worth $100 billion, $100 billion. Our goal is to make it $1 trillion in 3 to 5 years. We hope.
Mr. Ferguson said, all right. Now, Ms. Loftus, let's go back now to step 17, please. And Your Honor, may I approach to provide a hard copy to the witness?
The court said you may.
Mr. Ferguson said, and Ms. Loftus, if we could go to page 4 of step 17. When you're ready. And if we could zoom on the second row, with 1B69.
By Mr. Ferguson.
All right. Now, Ms. Volhkol, what type of device is 1B69?
According to the stipulation, it is an iPhone 12 Pro.
And where was it recovered?
Wong apartment, inside a bag in closet.
Mr. Ferguson said, all right. Now, Ms. Loftus, if we could now go to one of these extractions, 1B69BT. And I think it's an Excel, Ms. Loftus. You may need to open it separately. Okay. Thank you. Now, Ms. Volhkol, let me focus you first on the column C here. Who are the participants in this chat?
The participants are a contact name of M, and the owner of the device.
What's the owner's name?
Yvette.
And what does it mean when a participant in a chat has the owner parenthetical?
That's the device that was extracted.
Mr. Ferguson said, all right. Now, Ms. Loftus, if we could scroll to the right slightly. And focusing you on column Q, Ms. Volhkol, where it says source, what does it say underneath source?
Signal.
What is Signal?
Signal is a third-party messaging application.
All right. And just looking to the right of that, what's the date of this first chat?
November 20th, 2021.
Mr. Ferguson said, all right. Now, Ms. Loftus, we can scroll back. And to make this read a little easier, Ms. Loftus, are you able to hide the CC, BCC, priority, basically columns D through H? All right. Now let's go to row 49, Ms. Loftus. Please.
By Mr. Ferguson.
Now one of the participants was M, Ms. Volhkol, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now can you read, now focusing you on column B? That's the sender of the chat, right?
That's correct.
Can you read, what's in column J, the translation for row 49? Mr. Ferguson said, scroll up, Ms. Loftus. And row 49 also has a 47 in column A. Do you see that?
Yes.
And can you read the translated body there?
Great. Thank you, Mimi.
Do you know who Mimi is?
I do not.
Mr. Ferguson said, let's go to row 90, please. All right. And Ms. Volhkol, and this is another message from Yvette, the owner?
That's correct.
And can you read what that voice message translation is?
Mimi PH, it's like this, possibly starting from today, or tomorrow, that attorney from HKI. Lee PH will prepare you, that is to fully prep you to testify. And then, that, they. Should be Lee to whom that Aaron PH will give, that is to give some coach. Because Aaron cannot directly participate in your prep. Right, then, Yesterday to Wong PH, said to have you secretly call my phone, and let me listen on the side, ha ha ha. Yes. So perhaps you just call my phone. What time will it be? And then you call my phone. You can call me with this. Don't say anything, then it should be okay. I put it on silent mode and just listen, what do you think?
And then I'll read the responses from the M. Mr. Ferguson said, if we could scroll down a little bit, Ms. Loftus. So it says, ouch. No need. I'm not a 3-year-old child. My dad really doesn't understand me very well. He makes it sound like so hard. He has been nagging me for 3 days. Just say I won't call. Mr. Ferguson said, and we can scroll down now. Let's keep scrolling down. Let's go to row 112. And actually, let's just go to row 132, actually. Okay. Now this is another chat from Yvette, right, Ms. Volhkol?
That's correct.
Can you read the translated body?
You tell him or her whether you're willing to, you tell him or her. She asks if you're willing to testify, your tone should be that this is your boat, right? This is your boat. What you have heard now is, hey, this is your boat. What is going on? How come now the boat belongs to my dad? And now my dad is going to jail because of it. It's said that he's going to jail. What is going on? You should start from this tone, this is your belonging. You start from this perspective and tell him, her why you are going to testify, isn't that right? And then, you're not saying that you could help, but saying that this is your property, and you must claim your rights. Your tone should start from the perspective of the owner.
Mr. Ferguson said, Ms. Loftus, could we pull up quickly in Trial Director Government Exhibit 1413? And actually, before we do that, Ms. Loftus, I'm sorry, could we scroll to the right just so we can see the date of that message? And Ms. Volhkol, under timestamp, what's the date of that message?
January 21st, 2022.
Mr. Ferguson said, all right. And if we could go to Government Exhibit 1413, Ms. Loftus. And if we could scroll down. And Ms. Volhkol, could you read the very top sentence that starts, whereas the evidentiary hearing?
Whereas the evidentiary hearing specified by the First Department's November 4, 2021, order was held on February 2, 2022.
And is February 2, 2022, about 2 weeks after the message we just looked at?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson said, if we could go back to the Excel, please. And if we could go to row 130. We can skip that. We'll skip down a bit just for time. Go to row 137. All right. And row 137, it's also number 135. Is that another message from Yvette?
That's correct.
Can you read the translated body, please?
Fine, you can come to me at any time, Overall. Even with your own lawyer, our own lawyer afterward. Our dialogue is just pretending that this homework in the background has not been done, as the tone always means that. Well, you are one of the managers and representatives of the entire family's assets, and then the management and representation of family assets in the entire China and Europe, and Asia are different from those in the West. It's equivalent to you being one of the family representatives. The assets you hold are your assets, they are the assets that the family has authorized you to hold. This is your boat, right? And then after that, that is, regarding to your ship, That means that you are not saying you are insisting. But saying if you can show up to help. And saying that this is your asset, you have to be responsible for the family. You have to be responsible for your own assets, and go out to claim this right. You heard that someone distorted and said that this boat belonged to your father. And since your father got into trouble because of this matter is completely intolerable to you. This is why you have to come forward to testify. This is the basic keynote and tone behind it, yes. Regarding this boat, it was your brother who paid for the boat, so, this is between you and your brother. It was your brother who went to pay for the boat. Both you and your brother are, representatives of the family assets. That's the situation.
Mr. Ferguson said, if we could scroll down. And if you could read the next message from Yvette, Ms. Volhkol.
That is why Victor wants to talk to you. Because he wants to go over the whole years of 18 and 17 with you. Our entire conversations are just about when we made that application, about your story. Just making sure that this can be matched, don't have Chong pH to have difference. At the same time, he also wants to remind you, that is, to emphasize about the period of time being persecuted. Then emphasize to you about the safeties this, and then the hidden dangers of this safety being threatened. Yes, must emphasize these, yes, I am F-word being threatened and in jail so what, right, similar to this kind. And then there must be this huge potential safety hazard. In view of this, therefore you asked not to appear before. And now even if appearing, the face cannot be shown, those are the 2 points, let's emphasize them first. Yes. The attorney insists that it must be mentioned from your mouth, that's why. In fact, we have prepared with them many times for these stories behind, and they all know how to deal with it. It is just because due to their so-called bullshit professional ethics, he must hear it from the client's mouth. That is the reason. That is why the so-called bullshit is that Aaron can't participate in the prep of your deposition either. Only your lawyerly can, anyway, that's how it works. Yes, you should rest first. Feel free to contact me anytime tomorrow, feel free to contact me anytime.
Ms. Volhkol, do you know who Aaron is?
I do not.
Do you know who Victor is?
I do not.
Mr. Ferguson said, all right. Ms. Loftus, let's go back to step 17 at page 3, please. And the 5th row down for 1B204. All right. What kind of device, according to the stip, was 1B204?
A SanDisk Extreme Pro USB drive.
And where was it recovered?
Moa Mansion, inside a Faraday bag.
What's a Faraday bag?
That's a bag that can prevent any frequencies from entering the inside of the bag.
And what do you mean by that?
Any connections. So it could be cellular service, Bluetooth.
And to your understanding, what purpose do Faraday bags serve?
They can be to preserve the contents, so there's no changes occurring to the device inside.
Mr. Ferguson said, now if we can go to, Ms. Loftus, some of these contents. 1B204-13. All right. And if we could go to page 2. Please. And Ms. Loftus, we can zoom on the top. What does it say on the top left, Ms. Volhkol?
Brioni, 688 Madison Avenue, New York, New York.
And then in the center in all caps, what does it say beneath that?
Invoice for Mr. Miles Kwok bespoke order.
Mr. Ferguson said, and if we could zoom out. And if we could scroll back up to the top. And what was the total amount?
There's a couple values at the bottom.
And just looking at, if you want to do the far right total.
The far right is $719,489.55.
719,000?
719,000, sorry.
That's all right. Mr. Ferguson said, let's go to step 17 on page 2. And towards the middle, 1B121, what kind of device is 1B121?
A red iPhone.
Where was that recovered?
Sherry apartment, inside a bag.
Mr. Ferguson said, Ms. Loftus, let's pull up side by side 1B121C and D, please. All right. And Ms. Volhkol, have you ever met the individuals pictured here?
I have not.
Mr. Ferguson said, if we could pull up now 4 exhibits just all at the same time, 1B121H, I, L, and M. Ms. Volhkol, have you ever met the individuals pictured here?
I have not.
Mr. Ferguson said, all right. Let's go now to step 17 at page 3, please. And can we zoom on the 3rd row, 1B255? What kind of device is 1B255, Ms. Volhkol?
An iPhone 10.
Where was it recovered?
Moa Mansion.
Mr. Ferguson said, all right. Now let's put up 2 extractions side by side, 1B255C and 1B255D. All right. Now, Ms. Volhkol, on the left, 1B255C, what kind of extraction are we looking at there?
This is a wireless network extracted from 1B255.
And where it says SSID, what does that indicate?
That's the name of the Wi-Fi access point.
And what's the name of the Wi-Fi access point?
MAWA.
And focusing on the right, what kind of extraction are we looking at there?
This is a password that was extracted from 1B255.
And what was the account name?
MAWA.
And what's the relation between that account and the wireless network on the left?
They appear similar.
And in password, what was the password? What's the data on 255D?
Home sweet home.
All right. Now if we could just go quickly again to step 17, Ms. Volhkol. And we'll go to page 2. Second row from the bottom. And you looked at some 1B125 exhibits before, but just as a quick reminder, Ms. Volhkol. What type of device was 1B125?
A blue iPhone.
And where was it recovered?
Sherry apartment, inside a bag.
Mr. Ferguson said, all right. Let's go to 1B125L, Ms. Loftus. All right. So, Ms. Volhkol, I'll keep reading the Gladys messages in these types of chats. So this one, let me ask you first, what's the date of this chat?
The date is December 6, 2021.
All right. So I'll read the translation. It says, house update message about the curtain and carpet company, the building cleaning, and landscape company. I have asked the property manager Vinny and the intermediary Christine, and now I'm waiting for a reply. As for the room and movie theater on the 3rd floor, I have also asked. We also need to wait for a reply. Promomoria replied that they wanted to know the concept of the project first, what type of furniture you wanted, the photograph of the house, and the 2D and 3D graphs.
I have asked the broker for this, and I'm waiting for a reply. 4. About the Baccarat crystal lamps. We are waiting for a reply from them that they can give more discounts. The tax is about $250,000. I am considering whether we can still send them to the house in New Jersey, but they can help us pay the tax, and then a smaller discount may be acceptable. About the French brands you sent. There are only stores in France for the first brand. The link to the second and third brand is from the same company. There are branches in New York. Do you have any other favorite brands?
Mr. Ferguson said, and I think that may be it. There's no other page, Ms. Loftus, right? All right. Let's go to 1B125M. All right. And what's the date of this chat?
December 7, 2021.
That's one day after the one we just looked at?
That's correct.
All right. I'll read Gladys, and just focusing on the first chat there, in the body, there's a PDF file. Mr. Ferguson said, and Ms. Loftus, if we could open 1B125M1 from the attachments column. And Ms. Loftus. If we could zoom on the bottom right, just briefly. Ms. Volhkol, are you able to read what it says in large text there?
Crocker Residence.
Mr. Ferguson said, okay. Let's zoom out. And we can just scroll, Ms. Loftus. You can keep scrolling. You can just scroll through the end. All right. Let's go back to the chat now, please. It's 1B125M. All right. And if we could scroll down slightly. And we can scroll up. You can go back to the top, Ms. Loftus.
By Mr. Ferguson.
All right. So I'll read Gladys. It says, another floor plan for the house in New Jersey. And then there's a photograph, and it says, this is the elevator interior of the house in New Jersey, and now we are waiting for the circuit breaker to arrive. It is expected that the elevators will arrive on December 20th and will work when installed. Mr. Ferguson said, if you could scroll down. Vinny, the steward, said that it would take about 45 days to connect the movie theater and the rooms. And then there's a photograph. Mr. Ferguson said, Ms. Loftus, are you able to just zoom on that photograph? All right. And Ms. Volhkol, can you read the milesqua text at the bottom there?
This, just the south side of the 3rd floor. It is now another one. Change it like this. How long will it take?
Mr. Ferguson said, and if we could zoom out. And let's scroll down. All right. And there's another photograph, and then can you read the text from Milesqua?
In consideration of his current situation. That one where I circled probably needs to be built like that. Just to open it. How long will it take so that these two construction works can be completed as soon as possible? Can they be completed within 1 month? You think if overtime is implemented? Can they be completed within 1 month?
Mr. Ferguson said, if you could scroll down. All right. Now there's a picture and then there's Milesqua text. Now, Ms. Volhkol. In the bottom entry here, is there both text and an image?
That's correct.
Mr. Ferguson said, now, Ms. Loftus, can we please play the attachment 1B125M8?
Media played.
Mr. Ferguson said, all right. We could go back to 125M. And Ms. Volhkol, could you read the translation of that?
Xiaojua, don't put the head of the bed on the 3rd floor toward the back. Put it towards here. After entering here, most of the bathroom facilities are placed here. Which is Guamei's bedroom. This is Guamei's master bedroom. Guamei's big bathroom is here. And from here to here is her dressing room. Then this is Xiao Chao's room, a small suite. This entrance is here. These are 2 bedrooms. This bedroom and this bedroom are reserved. There can be a bathroom behind this. This is a public living room between the 2 of them. They all can come here. How long will this take? Okay. You can draw a layout and send it to him.
Mr. Ferguson said, all right. If we could scroll down. All right. And again. There's a photo and then there's a message with both text and an image. Ms. Loftus, can we play 1B125M10?
Media played.
Mr. Ferguson said, we can go back to the text.
By Mr. Ferguson.
And can you read the translation, Ms. Volhkol?
This is the sides of 3rd floor. The north side of the 3rd floor is Guochang's room. Turn this area into a bed, turn this area into a bed. Open this area up, it should connect with this area. This is the bedroom. Guochang's 2 bedrooms. This is his dressing room. Here is a hallway through here. How long will it take?
Mr. Ferguson said, all right. Let's scroll down. And again, there's another image, another photo sent. And then there's a chat with a text and an image. Ms. Loftus, can we play 1B125M12?
Media played.
Mr. Ferguson said, we can go back to the chat.
By Mr. Ferguson.
Could you read the translation of the audio, Ms. Volhkol?
This is Mrs. Gua's 2nd floor, the north side, the north side. Do you see it? Remember the north side of the 2nd floor, the head of the bed is here. Put it here. Then, open this up. Open this up, there are 2, this is her bedroom, this is the bathroom, and this is the dressing room. How long will it take?
Mr. Ferguson said, if we could scroll down. And can you read the next chat, please?
According to you, I need to connect and restore the entire 3 floors and the water. Electricity and restrooms need to be done. 30 days, he needs to find 3 or 4 teams to work overtime. Okay. Don't ask for help from 1 team. 3 teams must be found for the 3 floors, work overtime, give us some time. And give us a quotation.
Mr. Ferguson said, and then the next chat, let's play the attachment first. Ms. Loftus, can you play 1B125M14?
Media played. Continued on next page.
Mr. Ferguson said, can we go back to the chat? Can you read the translated audio, please, Ms. Volhkol?
This is dining room on the south side, the southeast corner at the back. Kitchen is here. This Mrs. Gua is converted into a kitchen, from here to here is a cabinet which we customize. Then put an island in the middle and connect to natural gas, water supply and drainage here, which have to be done at the same time. This is one of the biggest projects for projects total, okay.
Mr. Ferguson said, "Is there any more, Ms. Loftus, when you scroll down? There's another photo, and then can you read the last chat, Ms. Volhkol?"
Gladys, this place needs to face east, the place where the line was drawn. This position needs to be an ignited stove, inside is the cabinet, a kitchen island is in the middle. This needs to be done, and it's necessary to connect water and natural gas.
Let's go to 1B125N. What's the date of this chat excerpt?
December 8, 2020.
I'll read Gladys. It says, the broker Christine sends an interior designer's profile. She says the designer has designed hotels, offices, large local and New York properties and other places designated by the client. He has a good taste and is very creative, and his design has high quality. You can take a look at his information and see if you like it or not. And then there's 2 web page links sent that I'll skip. It says, 3 Baccarat is still trying to get us more discounts and not all crystal whites are in stock. But the staff said it was easy to place an order and get the goods.
Okay, Baccarat. How about their attitude? Their attitude is okay. Baccarat, about this designer. When can we hold a meeting for him? This designer is excellent, but it is not enough. What we want is that super and royal grade. Ask him if they can find another one. Give Christina. We need to have a meeting with the designer as soon as possible to have a understanding, okay?
The attitude of Baccarat is okay.
Then just push that. 20 is impossible. His tax, what's the tax in New York? How much tax can we reduce? I definitely want to exempt this tax 100%.
Mr. Ferguson said, you can scroll down, Ms. Loftus, please. The tax is $250,000 and the New Jersey tax rate is 6.65%. I also asked him to exempt this for us at least.
No, at least this must be exempted. This tax must not be paid. The key is it is not 20. It is impossible. How will I buy so much? At least 50, originally 75% discount, and now 50 is okay.
Was the previous 75% discount given in China? Did you buy something in the name of Beijing Jinquan?
Yes. It seems like they returned to Beijing, Jinshuan, to sell things. It is always a discount of 75%. It has always been like this. Later it was changed and then even 50 is not given. This is crazy.
If we can scroll down. You can continue.
I bought some in Jinshuan and Pangu of Beijing. The main problem is that they were registered in my personal name, namely Miles Gua.
Because they all need to look at the records when doing things here. I asked him to find out the records of our orders placed in New York. He said that the discount was 50% because it was in 2010. Now it is 10 years later and the policies are different. But I'll keep negotiating with them. Mr. Ferguson said, Ms. Loftus, do you want to just zoom in on the photos, and we can zoom out? You can scroll down. Ms. Volhkol, you can continue.
The place in the circle is the one on the 3rd floor to be connected. If we break the location of the bedhead, it is connected. The location of the 2 bedheads is the corridor to be connected, but you fail to reflect it in the drawing. Second, the new kitchen is located in the corner of the 1st floor. The sink is on the north side and I drew it. No sink is around the stove. There are 2 sinks on the island of the middle kitchen. 2 sinks are placed on the north side, and the fire is on the east side. Please continue to check the drawing I gave you. There is some mistakes.
This picture shows the movie theater on the 3rd floor. You said that the room was empty. But should it be connected to the room next to it? I have marked to connect the room on the 2nd floor, but modified it to extend to the bedside. Mr. Ferguson said, let's go down to 1B1250. Now what's the date of this chat?
December 8, 2021.
And there's another PDF. I won't pull it up, but it says December 8, 21 updated floor plan. And then there's an image. Mr. Ferguson said, Ms. Loftus, you want to zoom in on that image quickly. Who's the sender of this image?
The contact is Miles Gua.
Mr. Ferguson said, you can zoom out. You can scroll down. Then there's another message from Miles Gua with text and an image. Ms. Loftus, let's play 1B12504.
Media played.
Mr. Ferguson said, we can go back to the chat. Can you read the translated audio?
Right. Change the kitchen. This place is the stove. This place is 2 sinks. This is a sink and this is a sink. Here are 2 sinks. This is the place where is kept for stoves. This is the place where the stove can be connected. This. Then a round table will be placed in this place in the future. Well, this is what it looks like. Then this place will also be made into a round table. These is 2 tables. Then remember that all the wooden chairs needed to be removed. We need to replace the staircase with all glass ones. The stairs will be very beautiful. This one comes all the way from the hallway. This is the kitchen on the first floor, which is very important, faucets, stoves.
Mr. Ferguson said, if we can play 1B12505.
Media played.
Mr. Ferguson said, let's go back to the chat and we can scroll down. If you can read that translated audio.
We add security door to this place. Doors that require card swipes. Doors that require card swipes. Then from here to the north end, you see this end. There should also be security doors that require card swipes. You can't enter without swiping your card. This is one. Then employees come down from here and come here. This is an employee space. This is all reserved. Then. This is the employee space. We will not make any change, just change it into a warehouse, nothing else to change. Then this is the swimming pool. Remember the bath space, this is the place. There is a window here. We will replace it. We will replace this place. We will replace it. Replace it with a copper window that can be opened.
Mr. Ferguson said, and can we scroll down? And then there are more pictures. We can just keep scrolling down. If we could play 1B12509.
Media played.
Mr. Ferguson said, we can go back to the chat.
Mrs. Gua's bedroom. This are the bedroom and living room. This place is the dressing room. 2 dressing rooms, big dressing rooms.
Then there's an image. You said there would be a custom cabinet at the kitchen range in the faucet position. Will there still be a cabinet?
Above the stove and on the 2 stone walls in the north there will be customized cabinets which are full cabinets. The walls will be full of cabinets and below the cabinets, is there such mosaic style?
Mr. Ferguson said, and if we could play 1B125013.
Media played.
Mr. Ferguson said, we can go back to the chat. Can you read the translated audio?
The north side of the 3rd floor, that's where the pool table is. This is Guo Chang's dressing room. Remove the cinema. This is Guo Chang's room. He can open it from here and go into his dressing room. See this, okay.
Mr. Ferguson said, can you scroll down? Let's go to 1B125p, please. What's the date of this chat excerpt?
December 14, 2021.
There are several. The first 3 chats, do you see those are .pdf, the first 4?
That's correct.
Mr. Ferguson said, can we pull those up quickly, Ms. Loftus? Let's start with 1B125p1. What does the English say?
Carpets and rugs.
Ms. Loftus, if we can just scroll through some of these pages, let's go to 1B125p2. What does it say in English there?
Furniture.
If we could scroll. Just to pause for a moment. Do you see the domain listed there, Ms. Volhkol?
1sddips.com.
We can keep scrolling for a little bit. We can stop there. Why don't we go to 1b125p3? What does it say in English there?
Furniture.
We can scroll some more. Let's go 1b125p4. Beneath Certificate of Authenticity in the top right. What does it say there?
Solomon Treasure.
If we can scroll just a little bit, Ms. Loftus. Let's go back to the chat. I'll read Gladys. It says, the first door is the one from which you decided to buy products, and if we could scroll down. There's another PDF. We can skip over that. It says, you didn't see products of the first store before. But the products are good. There's another PDF, secondstore.pdf. Old man from the second store. Third store PDF. It says Jew from the third store. You can scroll down. And then can you read the text after those images sent by Milesqua?
Joe, thank you for your hard work. These two tables don't buy them because about the table after I checked yesterday, there is no such room for tables. So we won't buy those two tables.
Then there's two images. Ms. Loftus, can you see if we'll be able to read it if you zoom on those? Why don't we pull up the attachment quickly? It's 1b125p11. Focusing on the top left, Ms. Volhkol. Can you read what's beneath the image of the bed?
Savoir Harlech N2 bed set handmade in London, US queen size.
What's the list price for that?
$45,300.
We can go back to 1b125p. Let's scroll down. And then if we can pick up, Ms. Volhkol. At the bottom chat there.
There is no other discount for the new sofa.
And then the last chat.
These two can be bought directly by the finance department. We can enjoy 10% off with the above code.
Let's go to 1b125q. What's the date of this chat excerpt?
December 16, 2021.
I'll read the first one. Are these all from silk and wool? Have you bought it or do you want a similar pattern?
I just want better velvet, I want better.
Let's go to 1b125r. I'll read Gladys. Before I do, what's the date of this chat excerpt?
December 19, 2021.
Boss, let me tell you about the new house, that is. I called Vinny and he said that because he wanted to accelerate all the procedures, then the contract and drawings were ready and have been sent to Evan. As for the kitchen you requested, it's extended by a lane and the staircases were sealed. He said that because he knew the architect who had been doing it for 35 years. So he knew that basically it's unnecessary to take some special permissions. Some permits or anything and specifically deal with a lane. So he doesn't think this needs to be added to the contract or add the image now because you want to do everything well as soon as possible. He said that we could do it later, just add it to an attachment indicating that this is your requirement. Then he said that now it's Elaine from the kitchen who wanted to confirm with you. You said that you wanted to add a draw. Do you want to add it to both sides or just one side? He suggested only adding to one side because the other side is narrower. But please confirm with me if it is really added to which side and the style of the draw and what color do you want? Does it need to match with others? According to him, others were built years ago. So this needs to be confirmed with you, and what style do you want?
The style is the same as his current cabinet wood, Gladys, all the same as him. It's okay. Of course, add it to one side. It's definitely impossible to add to the other side. And then it is deep enough to put the pot bowl and basin. Place things below, heavy enough. And it must be of good quality. If none, then the same wood. You can also give us a choice. No problem. Very good.
If you can scroll down, Ms. Loftus, and can you zoom on that image? Have you ever met the individual shown here?
I have not.
We can zoom out. You can continue.
Yes, that's the first thing. Second, is the middle of the island too big? Does it need to be so big? After being sealed, does it need to be so big? Okay, that's it. Great. Thanks, Winnie. It's the island. If it is too wide compared with the normal island, it is better to buy the off-the-shelf product. That is the one with an island. It's guaranteed that it's the whole stone, the highest level dolomite. For example, the table below can be stainless steel, and the drawer can also be stainless steel. The stainless steel is okay. Of course, the wood is the best, just like the Max bedside. If there are any other options, the first choice will be the same at this wood. If none, then select stainless steel. But the quality must be good. If it's so wide, it's okay to be narrower.
Then there's I won't make you read the link. You can continue after that.
This table is 340,000. It can be bought after it's sure there's no problem with it. This is the most important, which will be placed in the middle of the hall. It is a great treasure. In addition, for these two baccarat lights, let's see, please communicate with him. If it doesn't work, you can find that young guy who sold the first furniture to us. You can ask him to help communicate and buy something cheaper. He can help us buy cheap things. Gladys, the bed. Just the green bed. There is a pink one. I want to order a pink bed for the room of Mrs. Gua. Order a pink one. And about the other 2 or 3 beds, please check if there is any. My room is large. All king size, the largest bed. I need to buy a bed in my room. Mrs. Gua, I want to buy a bed and then buy a bed for the room of Guamei. Others are no longer using beds. No other bed is needed.
If we can go to 1B125S. What's the date of this chat excerpt?
December 22, 2021.
Can you read the translated text?
Didn't you ask him if he had any round ones? Is it in stock, and how big is the largest one?
Mr. Ferguson said, "May I have a moment, Your Honor?"
The court said yes.
By the way, Ms. Volhkol, did you have any role in selecting which chats got excerpted here?
I did not.
Did you have any role in selecting which devices were part of that stipulation we've been referring to?
I did not.
Mr. Ferguson said, "Your Honor, I have a couple more exhibits the government is going to offer. Pursuant to Stipulation A, Government offers Government Exhibit 1782, and the government also offers the exhibits, to the extent not in evidence, in Stip 20.
The court said, no objection.
Mr. Kamraju said, no, Your Honor.
The court said, they're admitted.
Government's Exhibits 1780 and Stip 20 received in evidence.
Mr. Ferguson said, and I may need one other moment, Your Honor. Apologies. Ms. Loftus, can we go to 1B125K, please? What's the date of this chat excerpt, Ms. Volhkol?
December 1, 2021.
First one is from Gladys. It's an image. Can we zoom on that image? We can take it down. And I'll read Gladys? Boss. This table you asked your comrade to help order is already ready and will be shipped from Shenzhen. Where do you want to ship it?
Now it's going to be delivered to our warehouse, the one in New York.
And it says, is this table intended for that company? Let me see that the company should be responsible for the expenses?
About this, use G Club or another private company for payment. Don't involve anything else. Either G Club or another private company.
Ms. Volhkol, do you have any independent knowledge of what that means, use G Club or another private company for payment?
I do not.
Mr. Ferguson said, no further questions.
The court said, cross-examination.
Cross-examination. By Mr. Kamraju.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you just pronounce your name for me?
Jessica Volhkol.
Thank you. Could we have Government Exhibit Stip 17 up, please? Could we go to page 4? Ms. Volhkol. Do you remember on direct being asked some questions about the fourth device down on this list, GXB71Z?
I may have been. I don't recall if it was that specifically.
This device, this was found in the Wong apartment, correct?
According to the stipulation.
According to the stipulation, it was found inside a bag inside a closet, right?
That's correct.
And Wong refers to Yvette Wong, right?
I believe so.
So this device was not found in Mr. Guo's apartment, correct?
That's correct.
Wasn't found in Mawa, right?
Correct.
It was in a closet in Ms. Wong's apartment, correct?
That's correct.
Can we pull up GX1B71, please? You remember being shown this photo on your direct?
I do.
And this photograph comes from the device that we just talked about, right?
Can I see the exhibit number?
Sure. GX1B71I.
Yes, that's correct.
So this photograph was found on a phone that was found in Ms. Wong's apartment, not in Mr. Guo's apartment. Correct?
That's correct.
Let's take that down. Now, do you know if Ms. Wong had any connection to a company called G Clubs?
I do not.
Do you know if Ms. Wong was involved in any acquisition of benefits for G Clubs members?
I do not.
Do you know who Limari Reyes is?
I do not.
Is your only exposure to the Lamborghini shown in that photo through your preparation for testimony?
Yes.
Now, could we have GX1B124 please? Alongside it, if we could pull up the stip, GX stip 17. If we could go to page 2 of the stipulation. You see, I think it's the third from the bottom there, GX1B24Z. Do you see that?
I do.
And so that was found at the Sherry apartment inside a bag, right?
That's correct.
So it wasn't found on Mr. Guo's person, right?
That's correct.
So now we can take the stip down for a second and blow up the other exhibit, please. Let's go to page 2. Do you remember Mr. Ferguson asking you about certain email accounts reflected here?
I believe I was asked about a couple of accounts.
So, for example, I think he asked you about in row 10 an email called Guo Miles at Guo Media. You see that?
I do.
Can we look at the second account listed at the top of the page? Can you read the username?
The username is GladysC@hchtech.com.
What's the service type?
Exchange.
What is that?
That's an email service.
Let's look at the one right below it, 3. Can you tell us what the username there is?
tang2022@gmail.com.
What's the service type there?
iTunes Store.
I think we all know, but can you tell us what that is?
iTunes Store, you can buy applications for your phone.
Can we go down to the next one? What's the username there?
dhxbhcs20220327@gmail.com.
And the service type?
iTunes Store.
Can we look at row 9, please? Username there.
Jingong20.
And the service type?
Twitter.com.
And now let's look at row 12. Can you tell us what the username is there?
woiwodigianic@gmail.com.
Can you tell us again the fact that any of these email addresses appear in this report at this section? What does that mean?
These are accounts that are associated with the device, so they may have been logged into the device. Certain applications from the device at some point in time.
Can we go to page 1, please? Could we blow up the line it's right under tethering that says Last Hotspot Act? Do you see that?
I do.
What does last hotspot activity mean?
I believe that's referring to the last time it was connected to a hotspot. So you could set up your phone to almost like a Wi-Fi connection.
So this is some evidence of internet connectivity?
Yes.
What's the date on that?
May 11, 2023.
Are you aware that Mr. Guo was arrested on March 15, 2023?
I'm not sure of the date.
Would you agree with me that May 11th is approximately 2 months after March 15, 2023?
That's correct.
Now, you can't tell from just this Celebrate report who actually used the phone, correct?
I can just tell the accounts that are associated with the device.
And so you don't know who's sitting at the keyboard, right?
That's correct.
You can take that down. Can we pull up GX1B15GT? I think it is GX1B15G, and I think it's the translation. I think it's the one you had right before this, GX1B15GT. You remember testifying about this on direct?
I do.
Remind us again what the created time means.
The created time appears to be when the tag was created. So as the device was being reviewed. Either the case agent or whoever was reviewing the report would have tagging this specific note.
This is an Excel spreadsheet, right?
That's correct.
So the created time gets inserted into the Excel spreadsheet?
That's correct.
So the data on this Excel spreadsheet could be changed, right?
I guess it's possible.
That's what happened with the created time, right?
This is from the report, so that was when you generate a Celebrate report. There's certain values that are entered into the tag report.
Right. But this is not some kind of locked document, right? It's susceptible to being changed, right?
That's correct.
Mr. Ferguson said, objection, it's stipulated to.
The court said, sustained. If you would speak into the mic more, Mr. Kamraju, please.
Mr. Kamraju said, I didn't hear what the objection was.
Mr. Ferguson said, objection, it's stipulated to.
Could we pull up GX1B92B13? Do you remember testifying about this document?
I do.
So can we look at the email at the top left there? Can you just read that for us?
cool_HHR@hotmail.com.
That's not a Proton email account, right?
It appears to be a Hotmail account.
There's no date on this document, correct? We can zoom out.
I don't see a date on the document.
You see where it says experience March 2014 to current?
I do.
So we can't tell from this document what current means, right?
That's correct.
And we can't tell from this document when it was placed on the phone, correct?
Not from just looking at the document.
And we can't tell from the document who authored it, correct?
That's correct.
And you've never heard of Harun He, the man named on the document, correct?
I have not.
Let's go to GX1B2722, please. Do you remember testifying about this?
I don't recall this one specifically, but I remember looking at preliminary device reports.
We can scroll down. I think this is fine. If we blow up page 2, just the first account there. You see that that's Max Krasner?
I do.
So this is an account that this Gmail withdrawn. This Gmail account was accessed at some point from this phone, correct?
That's correct.
Now if we could pull up, we can take that down and we can pull up GX1B272B. Remember testifying about this document on direct?
I do.
You don't see a date on this document, right?
I do not.
And you don't know who Mileson is, right?
That's correct.
If we can go to page 21. Before we talk about this specifically, you testified on direct about certain signal messages that were extracted, right?
That's correct.
So when the FBI extracts signal messages, it's actually pulling the actual message out of the phone.
That's correct.
And then it gets represented on that spreadsheet that you had.
That's correct.
This is not that, right? This is a screenshot, right?
It appears to be a screen capture.
And you can't tell from the screen capture who did it, right?
What do you mean by who did it?
Who took it?
Who took the screen capture? I can't.
And at the top there you see it says Yvette.
I do.
If we can go to page 22, the next page, who's it say up there?
Mileson.
So that's two different people in your mind.
It appears to be, yes.
So this appears to be a screen capture of a collection of text messages, correct?
Correct.
And you don't know who put the collection together, right?
Who took the screen captures?
Well, who decided to group these various text chains together?
I do not.
You never heard of Max Krasner before, right?
I have not.
Your only involvement in this case at all is testifying here today, right?
Testifying and analyzing some of the digital evidence items.
You weren't part of the team that actually conducted any of the searches, right?
I was present at one of the search warrants.
Which one?
MAWA.
Mr. Guo wasn't at MAWA when you were there, right?
I don't believe so.
Could we pull up GXC9, please? Can we go to page 35? You remember Mr. Ferguson asking you to read some portions of this?
I do.
I'm just going to ask you to read a little bit. Okay. Do you see? It's the third full paragraph that starts, the protection of small investors. Do you see that paragraph?
I do.
Could you read the second to last sentence?
We're asking the SEC to investigate, and we're asking the DA's office and the DOJ to investigate.
Can you read the next sentence, please?
You can investigate as long as you guys get our stuff clarified.
You can take that down. Can we go to Government Exhibit 1B69Z? You have a copy of the stipulation in front of you still?
I do.
Would you mind turning to page 4, please? GX1B69Z was a white iPhone found in Ms. Wang's apartment. Correct?
That's correct.
And again it was found inside a bag in a closet, right?
That's correct.
So it wasn't found on Ms. Wang's person, right?
That's correct.
Could we pull up now 1B69BT? This spreadsheet is from the phone that was found in Ms. Wang's apartment. Correct?
That's correct.
In the bag in the closet, right?
That's correct.
Now, could we go to row 47, please? Sorry, I meant 49. So do you see there it says, great. Thank you, Mei.
I do.
And then there's a message below that's from whatever that account handle is, right?
Can you just scroll over so I can see the sender column?
Sure.
The other direction.
To the left.
Yes. It was sent from the contact.
And could you read the message that appears in row 48? I guess it is the one right under thank you. Mei.
There's an account on Twitter posting a video of my grandma's pass away. Can you find a team to get rid of it?
And then if you go down 2 more rows, do you see a message from Yvette the owner?
I do.
What's that say?
I'll arrange that.
Can we go to row 90, please? It's the red highlighted one. There's 2 sets of row number. Can you read the first sentence of the message there?
Mei, it's like this. Possibly starting from today or tomorrow that attorney from HKI Lee will prepare you. That is to fully prep you to testify.
You don't know who any of those people are, right?
That's correct.
And you never heard of Aaron before?
That's correct.
You don't know if Aaron is a lawyer involved in this case, right?
That's correct.
You don't know if Aaron has any involvement whatsoever, right?
That's correct.
Can we go to row 132, please? I guess it's 131. That one right there. Do you see about 4 sentences in there, something that starts, then, that, don't use video? Do you see that?
I do.
Could you read that sentence?
Then that don't use video because it will endanger safety, endanger your safety.
Can you read the next sentence?
You can bring out all the safety concerns including persecution.
And then the next sentence.
Because the lawyers internally are fighting with the other party, and the court, that is to say, about not allowing you to appear in video, which means either by audio or only by, that is to say, transcript.
You don't have any idea what the speaker means when they talk about safety concerns including persecution. Right?
That's correct.
You don't know in fact what any of this text message is about, right?
That's correct.
Take that down, and if we can go down to, you have the stipulation still in front of you?
I do.
If we can look at page 3. And do you see it's the fifth device down, GX1B204Z?
I do.
That says that phone was found inside a Faraday bag, right?
This was a USB drive.
Sorry. The USB drive was found inside a Faraday bag, right?
Yes.
You testified a little bit about what a Faraday bag is, correct?
Yes.
The FBI also uses Faraday bags, right?
Yes.
Describe for the jury how the FBI uses Faraday bags.
Sometimes when we're executing a search warrant, when we seize devices. If we can't disable any kind of communications, to preserve the data, we'll put them in a Faraday bag.
How does the Faraday preserve the data?
It blocks any signals from reaching the device, or any signals from leaving the device.
What's the import of blocking signals that are coming into the device?
It preserves the device at the state when it was seized, and it can also prevent the device from being wiped remotely.
So it helps stop remote access of the phone, is that right?
That's correct.
So like packing of the phone, right?
I guess you could say that.
Could we look at GX1B204-13, please? You remember being asked some questions about this?
I do.
And you remember being asked to read, I think it's at the top of the page, the name Brioni?
I do.
You do.
I do.
Now, pick any of these rows. You don't see any dates associated with them, right?
I do not.
And that number that you read out, $719,489.55. You remember reading that?
I do.
You have no idea when that money was spent, right?
That's correct.
Could we pull up GX1B125 please, HILNM? I'm sorry. My apologies. Could we do GX1B121C and D first? You remember being asked about these?
I do.
You have no idea when these photographs were taken, right?
Not from looking at the photographs.
You don't know who any of the people in there are, right?
That's correct.
You don't even know if this is actually a Brioni suit place, right?
That's correct.
It's just a photo of a man trying on a suit, right?
That's what it appears to be.
Now could we do GXB125H, I, J, L and M? You remember being asked some questions about these photographs?
I do.
They're photographs of men talking, right, fair to say?
That's what it appears to be.
Do you see the bottom too? You see there's an airplane in the background?
That's correct.
This was taken in an airport hangar, correct?
I'm not sure.
Are you aware that these photos were of an interview that occurred in 2018?
I'm not.
Are you aware that 2018 is 2 years before the GTV private placement?
I'm not.
Are you aware that 2018 is 2 years before the farm loan program?
I'm not.
Are you aware that 2018 is 2 years before the launch of G Club?
I'm not.
Are you aware that 2018 is nearly 3 years before the launch of the Himalaya exchange?
I'm not.
Mr. Kumraju said, "No further questions, Your Honor."
The court said, redirect?
Mr. Ferguson said, "No redirect, Your Honor."
The court said, "You may step out."
Witness excused.
The court said, "The government may call its next witness."
Mr. Horton said, "Just something briefly from the podium, Your Honor." Your Honor. At this time the government intends to play a video that's in evidence as GXVI 151.
The court said, "All right."
Mr. Horton said, "Your Honor, we have some technical issues which we're working to resolve. It should be one moment."
The court said, "Okay."
Media played.
Mr. Horton said, "Thank you, Your Honor. The United States rests."
The court said, "All righty. Would you please step up?"
Continued on next page. At the sidebar.
Ms. Shrofa said, "We thought the day would never come."
The court said, "Okay."
Mr. Kamaraju said, "At this time, Your Honor, pursuant to Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 29. Mr. Gua asked for a directed verdict of acquittal on the basis that the government has failed to prove several elements of its case, including Mr. Gua's fraudulent intent, materiality or misrepresentations or alleged misrepresentations at issue. In addition, in connection with the money laundering counts as a result of their failure to prove the underlying fraud counts, there's no specified unlawful activity for criminally derived property. And similarly, the government has failed to prove racketeering conspiracy. I'm happy to address that further if Your Honor wants."
Mr. Finkel said, "Your Honor, as the court is aware, the defendant bears a heavy burden. As the Second Circuit has made clear, a valid Rule 29 motion of all evidence and all inferences must be drawn in the government's favor. Frankly, I think Your Honor's decision yesterday indicating motion pretty much addresses that there is sufficient evidence for this case to be brought to a jury. Happy to address any particular arguments that defense counsel is ready to if the court would like."
The court said, "The application is denied. May I tell the jury that the defense is going to put on a case?"
Ms. Shrofa said, "Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, just under Rule 29, the statute gives us 7 days. We would ask for the court to give us additional time so that we consider what we would like to put in a written submission. We can put those timetables to the court."
The court said, "Yes."
Ms. Shrofa said, "Thank you."
Continued on next page. In open court.
The court said, "Members of the jury, the government has rested and has finished presenting evidence, but that does not mean that the case is over. The defense is going to put on a case, and we will start that after your break. It's very tempting now that the government has rested to start talking about the case, but you can't. You can't do that until I tell you that it's time, and that won't happen until after the defenses finish its case. We have summations and my instructions on the law. So remember that you're not allowed to discuss the case amongst yourselves, or with anyone else. Don't permit anyone else to discuss the case in your presence. Don't read, watch, or listen to anything from any source that touches upon the subject matter of this case. We will resume at noon."
The law clerk said, "Jury exiting."
Jury not present.
The court said, "Please be seated. Is there anything before we break?"
Mr. Kamaraju said, "Not from the defense."
Mr. Ferguson said, "Not from the government."
The court said, "All righty then. We'll start again at noon."
Recess.